Hello, everyone. Oh, wow, we have Donald Trump here in the live chat. Okay, cool. So I'm going to be reviewing. Can you please let me know how the audio is? I'm going to be reviewing this video by Sargon of Akkad Daily channel by Carl Benjamin. The video title is Why the New Atheists Failed. All right. And I think it's obvious that I'm going to have a lot of disagreements with this video, but let's see. We can hear you loud and clear. Fantastic. Thank you, British Pakistani atheists. And good evening to you as well. All right, let's go through this.
Hi everyone, so this is going to be a kind of more informal video to the ones I usually do, but I think that there's some really important subjects that, in a really quite grand way, that need to be addressed. And I think that the debate that recently happened between Dark Matter 2525 and Adam Friended that happened on his Twitch channel, I don't know whether I can find the link for it, but I'll try and find it and put it in the description. The debate that happened between these two was very interesting because they're both very much like me. They've come from a sort of intellectual space that I inhabited as well, and we are all atheists. And they were discussing essentially, well, they discussed around the question of essentially what we should be doing, right? Because it's very easy to look at religion and say, right, okay, it's got a set of commandments, therefore these are the things you should and shouldn't be doing, and it doesn't require very much thought, just get on with it. But without that, you find yourself with kind of legacy motivations or explicitly going from your own material needs and desires.
Are those the only options without religion? That's the only alternative? Why? I hope you explain.
And that's not always very healthy or wholesome. And so basically the question that should have been asked, I think, by Adam of Dark Matter is...
I mean, before, I just want to say the other alternative is to come up with, using data and scientific models, to come up with the best methods, to come up with some rules and standards and practices that has proven to make societies run more effectively and produce healthier outcomes and the most happiest people and the least amount of misery. That seems to be an alternative to religion and people just going about and just, doing randomly things that they decide personally what makes them happy without using any guidance or model. Like, tell me if I'm misunderstanding Sargon. If your opinion, please let me know in your chat, because I think like he was suggesting that's the only alternative to going but to religion, and I think that wasn't fair.
Why should we do what we do? And the question, and what that really means is, from where do we derive our duty?
Okay, this is the problem. But people who think that that's not the question that we're trying to answer, because there is no answer to that question, because there's no should and there's no duties, right? You can never come up with a reasonable answer to because duties implies that there's something that we should be doing, but there is no way for you to answer how we ought to be. But what you can actually answer, and I think that's the more important question, is that given that we know that we want less misery, given that our goal is to be happier and have the highest number of happy people, is there a good way to get to this answer? And if there's a bad way to get to this answer, are there better ways to get to this goal? And the answer is obviously yes, there are better ways to. So I mean, why, so that again, framing it in the way, what is our duties or what should we do? It's a biased ways of approaching it, because that's the only question that religions pretend to be able to answer. But if you ask a better question, if you ask the question is, given certain goals, given that we want to reduce misery, given that we want to be happy, what are the most efficient ways of answering it? By the way, this is not a very good way to pause here. Yeah, that's better. Given that that's our goal, how do we get these answers? And the answer is with data and the scientific models. As usual, that's the answer. And is this a scientific question? Yes, it is a scientific question. It's more of a scientific question than it's a philosophical question. Because we have enough data and enough models to be able to analyze different ways of running societies and behavior, and to see which one produce better outcomes. This is definitely a scientific question, and obviously a question that religion sucks at answering. It not only sucks at answering, it diverts us from, it harms us. But let me actually pay attention a little bit to the live chat. Hello, everyone. Guys, if you want me to read something that you're saying in the live chat, please tag Atheist Republic. And also don't be like rude, if you want me to highlight your comment. Or highlight your comment, or if you want me to read out your comments. Hold on. Let's continue.
And I think that dark matter, this...
Okay, Steve is saying it would be amazing if you could get Matt Dillahunty in on this. We had Matt Dillahunty on our Secular Jihadist show, and I've been blocked by Matt Dillahunty ever since I had David Silverman on Atheist Republic. So that's not going to happen.
This did kind of come up at one point, and dark matter was a bit stumped because, well, who knows, right? I mean, if you've got total freedom to do anything, why would you do anything? If
you have total freedom to do anything, why would you do... Okay, so let's just be fair to what he's saying. Like, I don't want to strawman.
Was a bit stumped because, well, who knows, right? I mean, if you've got total freedom to do anything, why would you do anything? Why do anything if there's no like inherent desire or need that you're fulfilling? It's not...
Well, because there is a lot of inherent desire. What do you mean? Okay, so if we have freedom, okay, why do anything? Because we want to be happier and we want to be less miserable, and we have goals, and there are good ways to achieve those goals, and there are bad ways to achieve those goals. I don't understand. What's the question? I don't understand what the question is. If you have, first of all, even if you have, first of all, we don't have total freedom. Just because religious restrictions are not good restrictions, and we want to remove those restrictions, that doesn't mean that we don't want to introduce other restrictions. Okay, we don't want to live in societies that you're free to do everything. Just because we're opposing religious ways of coming up with what these restrictions should be, that doesn't mean that we're like, okay, yeah, then everybody go and murder and, commit genocide or do whatever you want because, screw restrictions. Obviously, obviously we have goals, and we want to help. Not only we want to achieve our goals, we get pleasure from seeing other people achieve their goals as well, right? We are social animals. We get pleasure out of seeing other people's happiness as well. And we want to live in societies where most people are achieving the highest amount of happiness. And therefore, we come up with rules and structures to achieve those goals more efficiently. And religion is standing in our way. Religion is actually the most important, is responsible for the main institutions and practices and restrictions that is standing in our way to achieve this goal. No other set of ideas have damaged our ability to achieve these goals more than religious ones. Let me see. Yes. Listen to Marco. What the hell, Donald Trump? The Donald Trump in the live chat is as crazy as the Donald Trump in real life. All right, let's continue.
Not to say that the new atheists didn't have, obviously, their strengths and their virtues, and a good reason.
So he's saying new atheists were good in some ways, but there are some weaknesses. By the way, thank you, Soha, for reminding everybody in the live chat to please like and subscribe. I don't understand. So many people come watch these videos, but they don't subscribe. What the hell is up with that? And why wouldn't you like? It's like literally takes like half a second for you guys to like, and it really helps this channel to grow. So just like it. It's just easy. All right.
Didn't have obviously their strengths and their virtues, and a good reason for doing what they were doing. I think they did. I think that there is an aspect, obviously, to religious thought that becomes stifling to the individual and to innovation, and is unnecessarily and excessively conservative. And the new atheists essentially demolished religious credibility by attacking the legitimacy of the scriptures and the.
I would say that they continued doing that, but religious credibility was demolished way before the new atheist movement. I mean, including it started most importantly with the Enlightenment movement in France and United and in England and some other places in Western Europe.
The literal interpretation of events, which obviously is all true. Nothing in these scriptures or ancient works and canonical texts of any religion are literally true. They're all literal bullshit. They're all literally propaganda to get you to believe in a moral worldview. And by destroying the legitimacy of the religious propaganda that is each holy book, the new atheists also appear to have destroyed the moral legitimacy of the metaphorical interpretation of these works, which are the sort of human narratives that are contained within them. Why is the sacrifice of Jesus something noble? And it is something noble. And
how is it something noble? Can somebody? I never understood that. What is something noble about somebody saying like, "Oh, you guys are all inherently disgusting sinners that deserve to be tortured forever, but that's fine. I'm going to torture my son instead." Like, what is? I never understand what is so appealing about this story. It makes absolutely zero sense. It makes no sense. It is obviously a cult's reaction to their leader being crucified, and they're coming up with the story to say why this was always part of the plan. And there was a desperate attempt to make sense of the new reality. But why was so many atheists are convinced that okay, this is all nonsense, but it's a valuable story. It's an important story. Like the story of Jesus is like, why? It makes absolutely no sense, and it teaches you nothing. Every atheist that says that has never been, like, once you ask them that, I've never seen them be able to explain exactly what are the lessons and what is the value that you're getting out of the story, and how does the story even makes even the slightest amount of sense, because it doesn't.
Is something genuinely good contained within the heart of Christianity, which is why it was so successful. And one of the things that I've been studying recently.
Okay, let me see if somebody could, because I want to make sure I'm not strawmanning anybody. So if you guys are thinking that I'm missing his point, please point it out to me. Hold on here. First, this one. He means that the details are nonsense, but the idea of sacrifice is noble, I think. Yeah, I know, I got that, but I don't understand why. How is the idea I'll torture my son because you disgusting sinners who don't deserve to go to heaven will now deserve to go to heaven because I forgave you for being the way that I created you. I forgave you because I tortured my son instead. How is that noble in any way? Like, I understand that he's saying that it is nonsense, but it's noble. I don't understand how it's noble. Like, I don't understand even the second. Like, we agree on the first part, but somebody explain how the second part follows. Marco is saying, I believe you're wrong for considering Sargon to be. Come on, guys, don't be. Let's be charitable to people, okay? Let's not let's assume people's intentions are good. You know, we don't have to try to read people's minds. Biddy is saying, oh yeah, great, thank you, Biddy, thank you, that's very helpful. She's saying like and subscribe. Yes, like and subscribe. Hold on, let's continue.
Recently, it's just medieval fables and texts, and doing like textual analysis of these. And one of the things I find interesting about them is how boldly the people in these declare themselves to be Christian. They are presenting a moral framework and saying, no, I believe in him that died on the cross, and there's a moral worldview.
Okay, so Tim is explaining it's noble to sacrifice yourself for loved ones. Well, first of all, he didn't even sacrifice himself. He upgraded his situation from being a mere walking, talking human to being a king in heaven. Great sacrifice. Like, I died for your sins. No, you didn't. You came back 3 days later. How is that dying for our sins? You didn't stay dead. What kind of a freaking sacrifice is that? That's not a sacrifice. I mean, I would do that deal. Like, hey, Armin, you get tortured for a bit, then you die, then you come back as king in heaven, and everybody sins, and because of you, millions of people will go to heaven instead of hell because of half a days of torture, plus you'll be fine after. Yeah, sign me up. Like, what the hell? I get to be king in heaven for eternity? Like, what kind of... That's not a sacrifice. That's like an obvious... Yeah, sign me up. I mean, I would do that even if it didn't save a single person. Would you be tortured for half a day to go from being a mere human to, then you become king in heaven? Yeah. I think you agree that sacrificing yourself is noble if it's for good cause. Yeah, but it's not a sacrifice. Also, you have to understand that the person that is doing the sacrifice is God. So he technically created hell. So he's like sacrificing himself to save us from himself. Like, it's kind of like, hey, I was going to torture you, but now I'm sacrificing myself so that I don't have to torture you. Like, well, maybe you could have just not tortured us. It just doesn't make any can I swear? Because people tell me if I swear, these videos are not going to get recommended. But it doesn't make any goddamn sense. Marco saying you consider... Oh, guys, let's keep it on the topic. Marco saying you consider Dave Rubin at some time to be honest actor, and look what he... Okay, guys. We're talking about people rather than the ideas, okay? Let's talk about this. I mean, I'm sometimes guilty of that. But today, let's focus on what the ideas are, okay?
View that I think we can just basically boil down to all lives matter. And that's the essence of the sort of Christian metaphysic.
Okay, this is getting... Okay. The essence of Christianity being all lives matter. Imagine thinking that the religion, the ideology that popularized the idea of eternal torture, the religion that tells most that humans are all born to be fuel for the fires of hell, unless the ones that have accepted our ideology and have accepted Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior, other than those people, that religion, the essence of that religion is all lives matter. Can anything be farther from the truth? Like, how could anybody even think that? All lives matter unless you're gay, or if you're a witch, or if you disrespected your parents, so you should be stoned to death, unless you're a slave, unless you're not a Christian. How is this? Okay.
And it's this that underpins what the new atheists believe, but they seem to have come to the conclusion that they could have arrived at that without God. Now, it is possible, I think, to arrive at what approximates to all lives matter without the injunction from God that
Do non-Christian lives matter in Christianity? Do non-Christian lives matter in Christianity? They don't. They deserve. They get burned for eternity. I mean,
is essentially declaring that each person is made in the image of God, therefore they're all children of God, and therefore each person has the same inherent value in God's eyes.
in the same inherent value, which is very low, because Christianity, I mean, have you read the goddamn Bible? It constantly reminds you how sinful and how disgusting and how vile and how requiring of saving you are, and how anything valuable in you is because of your acceptance of Jesus. There's nothing, no. Like, this is a religion that makes you think like you are worthy of nothing other than burning. Like, even when you are saved because you accepted Jesus, even when you don't get burned, you didn't deserve it. The de facto situation was that you deserve to be burned in hell. And even when Jesus forgave you for all the sins that apparently for the original sins, for things that you didn't do, like, there can't be any. I mean, there are very few ideologies that are more anti-human than Christianity. You are born with sin. You are, from the very beginning, inherently you deserve to be burned and tortured. That's what you deserve. And even if you go to heaven, you've been given something because God is so merciful and gave you something that you didn't even deserve. How much more anti-human can a religion get? Yes, it is. It's cynical, but I guess a shot at salvation is better than hating all out groups. But this was not we are, as humans, we are not. That's not the alternative. Religion provides the hate here. The alternative. The religion is not providing a lesser hateful situation compared to what it would be like if it wasn't there. Okay, let's continue. Oh, Salim is saying all lives matter? Question mark. Didn't they know that they had slaves? Yeah.
To each other. So
yeah, again, this is a religion that not only doesn't condemn slavery, it makes excuses for it, and it legitimizes it by acknowledging its existence and providing guidance for how to do it. So sure, our lives matter.
the temporal.
And this is a religion, like, again, Christianity is a religion that includes both the Old Testament and the New Testament. And Old Testament is basically an ideology that has the idea of the chosen people, of some people being superior to other people. All lives matter? Like, are you serious? It's anything but that. Both the Old Testament, which is a book that has the chosen people and why they're better than everybody else, and the New Testament is even worse than the Old Testament, because it has that tribal mentality of the people, the in-group of people who accepted Jesus versus the out-group of people who haven't. That tribalism is there, plus the idea of the out-group deserving to be tortured for eternity. The New Testament is way worse than the Old Testament. So live chat saying, do you think the natural state of humans is the universal acceptance of strangers? No, but definitely less hateful than religion. What it would be like with religion. I didn't say without religion everybody would be great and loving and there would be no hate and everybody would accept each other. No, but I'm saying the alternative to religion is not more hate, is less hate. I didn't say the alternative to religion is no hate. I said the alternative, what I mean is the alternative to religion is less excuses for hate. He praises Christianity not because he thinks it's good, but helps his political ideology. Well, I don't know people's intention. I try to be charitable and assume the best of people's intentions. Okay.
moral value we consider ourselves to have in our advancement or deficit in comparison to our fellow man, in the eyes of God, we're all the same and we're all valuable.
No, we're not. I mean, I'm pretty sure he has read the Bible. We're not the same in the eyes of God. We're not, especially us atheists. I mean, actually, technically, every non-Christian is equally damned for eternity in the Bible.
If you don't believe in God like I don't, you don't take that literally, but you can see that there is a kind of moral framework here that actually does provide for the protection of the weak and the innocent and the vulnerable. It's not just about power politics now. There is something greater than ourselves that we are serving when we try and maintain this kind of worldview and this kind of order. And it does create good societies, we know, because we are them.
No, you are not them. Okay. It's not. You're saying the Christian. Okay, it does not produce better societies. Okay, it's like we are them. He's talking about United Kingdom, where he's from, and he's talking about like Western European and North American countries. These are better countries, not because of Christianity. These are better countries because of the Enlightenment, the Age of Enlightenment, which was a movement in part in direct opposition to Christianity and Christian values. Other countries that took these Enlightenment standards and values and made it the norm and made it the standards in their countries, they also benefited, and they're now also first world countries. Right? They don't have the Christian history. Like you look at Japan, look at South Korea, look at Hong Kong and compare it to China. Compare South Korea to North Korea. It's the Enlightenment values, it's the Enlightenment movement and what came after that made it. Wasn't the Christianity. Christianity held you back. It has nothing to do with Christianity that these countries are more advanced than the others. I mean, I'm right now in the Philippines. The Philippines is a way more Christian country than United States and United Kingdom today. Why is it not a better country than United Kingdom right now? Why is it suffering from a lot of poverty and crime and a whole bunch of other crap? Why is Philippines not a first world country? It's more Christian than your country right now. Marco is saying plenty of scientific data out there. Countries with more atheists and less religious people are just better in each and every way. Well, I'm going to talk about that later on. By the way, guys, I'm only highlighting the people who tagged the Atheist Republic because I don't know if you want me to highlight it if it's not being tagged. So here's another comment. See, I told you it's about politics, not religion in itself. Sargon is a far. No, I don't agree with that. It's far right and wants to use Christianity. No, I don't agree with that one. I mean, I disagree with him on this one, but I don't want to. I think he means that the Enlightenment came up with better ways to reach what Christianity claims to do. I don't think he said that. But let's continue. He didn't mention Enlightenment at all. So
when the new atheists come along and say, well, actually, none of this is legitimate, there is no God. Look at these scripts. They're all contradictory. Of course they are. They're written over hundreds of years by different people through oral traditions,
It's not just that they're contradictory, it's that they're full of shit. And you're like, oh, of course they're contradictory. They were written hundreds of years ago with oral traditions. You think the fact that they're contradictory is the only outcome of the fact that it was written by people written hundreds of years ago and sometimes thousands of years ago? You think that's the only outcome, that they're contradictory? No, another outcome is that they're shit guides to life. Like, these are people that had no idea how societies work. They had no understanding of how the mind works. They have no idea about how the universe and how nature works, and you want to go to them for figuring out what's the best way to run societies and what's the best standards and what's the best ethical guidelines for us to live by? Do you think the fact that they were written by people hundreds of years ago, you think that contradiction is the only thing you get out of it? No, they're shit books. You don't follow them.
But that doesn't change the fact that there is something morally good.
I mean, they're interesting books, okay? They're interesting books, but that's about it, right? I mean, I love mythology, okay? And I love Christian mythology, and I love Islamic mythology. And as long as people understand that consume it as mythology and enjoy the stories, there's zero harm in that. But there's two groups of people that take this and may turn it into something harmful. Enjoying the stories and having fun with mythology is all good and fun, and it's also very valuable because it teaches you about something. It teaches you about how human mind operates that comes up with mythology like this, right? But if you treat it as true, first of all, that's obviously really dangerous, because now you have you completely misunderstand what's remotely true about the world and how reality, what's real and what's not, and how anything operates. But even if you don't think it's true and you think it's not true, but it's a great guide to life, that's also very dangerous. Like you're dismissing hundreds of years worth of data and better ways of thinking and better models of how to run societies, and you're just going back and looking at people that didn't have access to any of this and like, oh, tell us how to, yeah, let's use this. Like, even if you don't think it's true, you still look at these text scripture as a guideline, that's also very dangerous.
Contained within them that's kind of an emergent property, so that has been over thousands of years, prior to the things being written down, these procedures that have been played out by the people who are living these lives, and in literally just the longest form of trial and error to get to a set of rules that will give people relatively good lives. And
that was not the goal. That was not the goal. If you look at the history of every major religion, if you look at the history of Islam and the history of Christianity and the politics behind what made it into the Bible and what made it into the Quran, it was never about a whole bunch of people sitting together and doing trials and error and like, let's come up with a way that we have healthy societies with happy people and less misery. That was never on the agenda. That was not the agenda. The agenda was like, if you look at like how people in the Catholic Church and the people at the Council of Nicaea, and after the if you look at the Abbasid dynasty and how they came up with the Hadith and how Quran was canonized, it was always about how could we get this sheep to follow us and consider us man of God that has connection to divine authority, and how they could just shut the fuck up and follow our orders. That it was always a power play. It was always about controlling people. So, I mean, if you know anything about the history of Christianity and any other major religion, you know that that was the goal.
This is all people, because one of the things I think the new atheists didn't consider is the kind of cognitive privilege that it.
Okay, let me see. Andreas, I'm really glad that you're here to make sure that I'm not strawmanning him. I think you must separate the organic evolution and the political middling of canonization, etc. Well, you can't, because because they are one of the same. Like, how can you separate that? Political middling. If you actually look at the evolution, at least with both, with all of them, with Judaism, with all Abrahamic religions, at least, the evolution was not organic. It was definitely political. Okay, hold on.
Requires to essentially be the moral legislator yourself, rather than interpreting moral legislation that comes from the Bible, which pretty much anyone can do, even really stupid people. Thou shalt not kill. I mean, someone with an IQ of like 80 can still work out that means don't hurt people, right?
Well, somebody with an IQ of 80 doesn't even need to look at the Bible to know that killing people is wrong. I mean, before the Bible, before the Quran, we had people. You didn't have philosophers just thinking that we shouldn't. It was probably not a good idea for people to be able to just go out and kill each other and steal from each other. People with very low IQ that were like not philosophers or anything like that, they were demanding of law and order because they understood that chaos would be bad for their business and everything. And they didn't want to see that. They didn't want anarchy. They had an appreciation for standards and practice. This is not something that they're like, oh, the Bible tells me, okay, I thought murder was okay until I read the Bible. I mean, throughout history, if you look at average people, they understood that just randomly murdering people is not a good thing, even if they weren't philosophers themselves. Like, this is like, again, thank you, Soha, for reminding people to like and share the video and subscribe and hit the bell button. Thank you, Soha. You're very, very kind. Hold on.
But coming up with reasons why you shouldn't do X, Y, or Z is a lot more difficult for people with lower IQ.
No,
and
it's
that's
not.
just the fact of it. The reasoning ability is required, and it's not very good in some people. It's just life. It's not a moral judgment. Again, if you take the Christian worldview, it doesn't matter at all. They're still equal in the eyes of God. But I think the new atheists failed to recognize that essentially they would have to provide a new set of ethics.
Guys, can you keep the live chat English, please? Thank you.
And a new set of preachers, or otherwise, this was not going to fill. They're going to create a void that was not going to be filled, and something else would rush into it. They didn't provide those things. They just felt.
I never understand this demand from atheist activists to fill in the void. The void. Okay, here's the example I give to you. Okay, because people are like, oh, the new atheists or other atheists, like, you guys are taking people's, religion. You want to take people's religion away, but you don't offer anything to fill in the void by yourself. First of all, the void will be filled by itself naturally with much better alternatives. That's not part of atheist activism, right? I mean, humanist activists probably are more involved in that than atheist activists. And the example I give to you is this. Imagine if I had insurance, right? If I got insurance for my house, and my house burned down, and I went to this insurance company, and I'm like, okay, it's time to pay up. My house burned down, and I realized they don't pay up, and they never replied to me. And I realized that this home insurance company was a fraud. Like, I've been conned. Okay, they fooled me. This was like, okay, so, and then I see my friend all of a sudden is shopping for insurance for his house, and he's considering the insurance company that I realized was a con. I go tell my friend, don't go with this insurance company. My house burned down and they didn't pay up. This is a fraud. Imagine if my friend comes to me and says, okay, fine, you give me insurance. Armin, you give me insurance. If you tell me they're fraud, you give me insurance. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm not an insurance company. I don't have insurance for you. I just know that these people are frauds. Go do your own research and find insurance. I'm like, no. You told me that this is a fraud. If you don't give me something else that is proper insurance, then I'm going to go with these people. No. Okay? So this is what I think a lot of people like, oh, the new atheist movement is taking away religion, but they didn't fill the void. That was not the point. The point was, hey, these religions are a fraud. They're probably not a good guide to your life. Go find something else. They weren't. The atheist movement was not designed, or it wasn't the goal of the atheist movement to provide you with a guide to life. You just have to know there's probably better ways, given that this is all horse shit.
Back on the Christian metaphysic that they had already employed and assumed would continue, which is kind of frustrating. And so it left this void for someone to come in and say, well, hey, we're looking for a new metaphysic. We're looking for a new ethical system. How are we viewing all of these things? So
then you don't need a new system. The people have been providing better models for thousands of years and hundreds of years, if you consider the Enlightenment movement that came out of your country. And your country and France, mostly like the mother and father countries of the Enlightenment movement was France and the British. So, I mean, how could you be like, oh, where's the better alternative? Like, are you serious? There are plenty of, in fact, even at the time of Christianity, when, like, you don't even have to talk about the Enlightenment movement. If you go back when Christianity was a baby cult, even at that time, there were better models than what Christianity was offering. If you go back to ancient Greek, like thousands of years before Christianity, people were talking about ethics and morality in a much, much more advanced and nuanced ways than Christianity ever even got close to. It's child's play compared to what the Greek philosophers were talking about. At least the methodology was better. It wasn't based on like revelation and faith. It was about logical thinking. I mean, sometimes they got some really crappy ideas, even the great Greek philosophers, but it's not about the conclusions. The methodology was like, let's think about this logically. The methodology is more important than the conclusion, because the methodology, even if it sometimes gives you crappy results, on average, the good methodologies give you more right answers than wrong answers. And crap methodologies like religion, like faith, like revelation, even though sometimes they randomly give you some accidentally right answers, they more often give you really wrong and sometimes very dangerous answers. That's why the methodology is more important than the conclusions themselves. And Greek philosophers we're talking about better mythologies thousands of years before these religions. So the Christianity wasn't, even for its time, was not a step forward. Even for its time, it was going backwards. Okay, here's another person trying to help me. Oh, we have a Twitch. Guys, we're streaming on Twitch as well. So link in the description, follow us on Twitch. Is Sargon claiming that you are obligated to provide an alternative to religion, or just that it's challenging to convince people to be atheists unless you offer an alternative? I think the first one, closer to the first one. Okay, here's Andreas. Andreas trying to make sure I'm not strawmanning. His point is that when you are out of the cult, you have no reason for yourself, which is hard, so people find a new cult instead. That is not true. That is not true, though. That is not true. Like, we have had this. People exaggerate how often this happens. I mean, look at the most atheistic countries in the world. People are not joining cults there left and right. Okay. Again, guys, if you want me to read something, please tag Atheist Republic like this. See, like this.
So after the new atheists had done their work and ejected Christianity, what was left? And the answer was not much. You know, there's a vacuum into which hedonism can rush. And it did in the atheist community. And then you get other moral systems coming in to fill the void. And this manifested itself with Rebecca Watson back in like 2013 or something, and Elevator Gate, and we've seen the march of this ideology ever since. And the thing is, this thrives on the kind of utilitarian ethics that we've been left with. Just
wait, what do you mean that doesn't happen? Oh, like, first of all, okay,
well, as long as
that doesn't happen all the time. When people, okay, here, let me show you. Okay, let's look at this. Let's look at some countries. All right, here, look. The country like, okay, Czech Republic, I believe in God, 16%. Sweden, people who believe in God, 18%. Okay, also Sweden. Hold on, let me see if Sweden is the 19th happiest country in the world. And then we have Estonia at 18%, Norway at 22%. Okay, and again, I'm not saying that this proves that atheism makes people better or happier in any way. I'm just saying that this doesn't prove that atheism makes better countries, but it does prove that, you know, without religion or God, you end up having people just either joining cults or being desperate for finding, not being able to fill that void with better alternatives. That's not true. Okay, that is not true. It disproves that claim rather than proving any other claim. Then we have Norway at 22%. And this is, by the way, this is even for European standards. This is like if the average in Europe is 51%. So these countries are very low in their belief in God, even based on European standards. So Norway at 22%, and we have Norway. Hold on, it's at the 7th most happiest country in the world. And it look like, for example, what is this? This is satisfaction with life index. So Switzerland is number 2, and Switzerland, we have only 44% belief in God. So these are like not societies like that are breaking apart, and people joining alternative cults because of their atheism. Denmark is is number 1 leading highest satisfaction country in the world, and it only has 28% belief in God. So yeah, I don't think what he's saying is necessarily true. Hold on, let me see. Okay, hold on. Guys, make sure if you want me to highlight your comments to tag Atheist Republic. I'm a Swede. We joined cults of personality, climate alarmism, social justice to a massive degree instead of churches overnight. Yeah, I didn't say people are not going to join cults, but I didn't say that it's going to be. People join cults even with or without religion, okay? Alternative cults to their religion. You're always going to find example of that, right? But this is not leading, obviously, to the outcomes that is being described here. I mean, Sweden is one of the best countries to be alive in, right? Cults are problems everywhere. But again, it's not, the societies are not falling apart and because like, oh my God, how these are countries that have better overall, you can't just come up with anecdotal examples of people joining cults and stuff like that. These are some of the countries that have the best structure, the best institutions, the best standards for life, which has produced very good results, right? These are the highest satisfaction indexes, the highest ranking countries based on satisfaction index. So you can't just be like, oh, well, this does happen without religion. Yeah, but you have to look at the net effect. Oh, Vikram is here. Rebecca Watson is a small YouTuber. I doubt she has such a big impact as what Sargon is pretending. He watches too much YouTube. He should go out for a bit. Okay, be nice so I could read your comment. Like I agree with you, Vikram, but hold on, let me remove this. Delco is saying his argument is pretty much the same one we've heard for years. You take away Christianity, people turn into hedonism and nihilism. Is just tiresome hearing it over and over again. Yeah, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. Yes, there are examples of it happening, but on most of the time, it's an improvement. Okay, most of the time, both on an individual level and on a societal level, people leaving their religions is an improvement. You could go find me examples of people either losing all hope and joining a cult or something like that, but on average, it's a net benefit. I think that so here's a Super Cat is saying, I think that's why some go to different religions after leaving one. Some don't become atheists right away. Okay. Marco saying, you may not say it, but I will. Atheism makes for better countries and people. Scientific data doesn't lie. Yeah, but the thing is, Marco, is that correlation is not always causation, right? So I have seen the data and there is a correlation. And the correlation does what the correlation does prove is that atheism does, and lack of religion is not going to break up societies, and it's not going to let people in a void with no structure and no guideline on how to live their lives. That's what it does prove. But what the correlation doesn't, I think, necessarily prove is that the atheism itself is responsible for the progress. I suspect that it does. But again, I think I can't be certain unless there's somebody shows causation beyond just correlation. Our countries are good, yes, but I would like to see improvements, not stagnation or regression. Of course. Yeah, I didn't say. All right, let's continue.
It's not hurting someone, then everything is permissible. It's like, well, harm is
Wait, hold
then
on.
everything is permissible.
Okay, wait.
13 or something, and Elevator Gate, and we've seen the march of this.
Are you seriously considering Elevator Gate as like an example of societies falling apart? Like, is that your metric here? Because if honestly, if that is your example of, you know, if that's the worst example you're thinking of how hard, oh my god, without religion, what's going to happen? Tell us, like, how scary it's going to get. Elevator Gate. Really? That's the boogeyman that we're all supposed to be afraid of? I mean, if that's the worst that could happen, then you have been spoiled by very advanced and very good societies. Like, we're talking about, we live in a world where people, like, we have failed states and slavery and genocide and mass concentration, concentration camps in China. And we have, like, reporters being missing in hundreds of numbers, missing overnight because of the government didn't like what they wrote. And we have uh, bombs being dropped on hospitals and children, and disease being used as a weapon of war, against a population. And you have demographic engineering, forced sterilization, and all of that. And if the worst that you have to worry about is something like Elevator Gate, you're doing fine. Okay, so don't worry. If it's all like, this is how spoiled you are and how privileged you are, that's the nightmare that you want to avoid. I'm not okay. So if you don't know what elevator gate is, I'm not going to go into the details, but it's basically just some atheist content creators and atheist activists getting in drama about somebody saying something to sex, somewhat sexist or maybe not appropriate, alone in an elevator. Basically drama and not using the right words and being awkward, turning in people disagreeing with each other. Nothing like war crimes or genocide or anything close to that. Okay, so I'm just saying, you don't need to know the details. It's just that I'm just want to let you know, if that's the hell that we need to be worried about, if losing Christianity means that we have to deal with more stuff like Elevator Gate, I'm gonna pay that price, man. I'm willing to pay 1,000 elevator gates if that's the price we have to pay for Christianity, for Christianity to go away. Okay.
Ideology ever since. And the thing is, this thrives on the kind of utilitarian ethics that we've been left with. Just, well, as long as you're not.
And this is a religion. We're talking about a religion that does promote genocide and slavery, and torture, okay, and sexism. And so, yeah, elevator gate compared to that is pretty fine.
Hurting someone, then everything is permissible. So, well, harm is, however, it's a relative term, isn't it? Ethics that we've been left with. Just, well, as long as you're not hurting someone, then everything is permissible. So, well, harm is, however, it's a relative term, isn't it? It's how you define it. You could.
Okay, so having a moral system based on reducing harm is the best moral system that you could come up with. Yes, there is a problem. How do we define harm? But and that's a challenge. But what's the alternative? What is the alternative? What's the point of coming up with moral systems and ethical standards? Anything other than removing harm. The fact that defining harm can be challenging and people have different opinions about it, doesn't mean that there's a better alternative. Because if that's not your goal, if reducing harm is not your goal, then what is the goal of having ethical systems and morality to begin with? Hold on here. Last username is saying several major US cities have been rioting for weeks over what is essentially a dogmatic ideology. I say it remains to be seen if modern replacements for religion are more or less stable. They are definitely more stable. They are definitely superior. Just because without religion, people join other dogmas, that doesn't mean. It's kind of like saying, "Hey, why cure cancer? We're still going to be left with AIDS." That's what it sounds like to me. Again, maybe I'm strawmanning your position, but that's what it sounds like to me. Like, hey, without religion, people are still going to be dogmatic, and they're still going to join cults, and they're still going to make bad decisions. So, yeah, it's basically very close to me saying, like, why cure cancer? Without cancer, we're still going to have AIDS. Without religion, some people are going to still find other forms of dogma, but without religion, more people are going to find better methods, better tools, better ways of living life. Just because some people are still going to fall into some other forms of dogma, that doesn't mean that we're not going to be better off without religion. We are going to be better off without religion. By the way, this was a Twitch, guys. Twitch live chat from Twitch. Join us follow us on Twitch. Link in the description. I'm gonna be biased towards Twitch, anyways. But no, I'm gonna highlight all of you guys if you tag Atheist Republic, okay?
Define harm as being punched in the face, but I don't think we'd say that boxers are actually doing harm to one another.
Oh my God! Look at this stupid comment. Armin, what the hell are you talking about? Christianity had a significant part in eliminating slavery. That is bullshit. That is bullshit. Christianity had way more of an influence of excusing slavery, and the people. If just because some abolitionists were Christian, that doesn't mean Christianity had anything to do with being anti-slavery. Christianity was a major marketing tool for slavery. Christian doctrine itself was a promotion of slavery. Some Christians, just like some Muslims, were anti-slavery despite Christian dogma, not because of Christian dogma. Last username say, if curing is a slow growing cancer, allow the fast growing cancer to take over, then you would have to take a different approach. Yeah, but that's not what's happening. Removing religion is and always will be an improvement. Not just religion, any form of falsehood, any form of dogma, if you fight it and remove it, any form of belief system that is not based in reality, removing that would be an improvement to this to the society. Okay, it's not a very extraordinary claim to make, to say that if more people believed in true things rather than false things, we have a healthier, better functioning society. That's not an extraordinary claim to make. Come on, guys. And it's backed by data.
Volunteering to go into a boxing match. It's a competition. It's a sport. You know, it's not harm. They both consent. And likewise, Desmond is amazing.
Come on. Okay. Yeah, you know, by harm, we're talking about net harm. Okay. If somebody consents to boxing, they're outweighing the cost of the benefits, and they're seeing the benefits more than the cost. Come on. Like, so yes, the defining of what is harm is challenging, but most people that have tried to come up with what's a good way to look at harm have done a much better way, come up with a lot better definitions than what you're describing here.
Might not be in any physical.
Hold on. All right, hold on. Let's continue. Let me continue, guys, a little bit because you guys are tagging me a lot.
You know, it's not harm. They both consent. And likewise, Desmond is amazing, might not be in any physical pain, but are we honestly going to say that there's no harm that comes from allowing that kind of behavior to be played out by a child? You know, or like,
okay, I'm not going to comment about Desmond, but obviously you're acknowledging that harm is not just physical, it's also emotional, and there's other forms of harm. So yeah, you just adjust the definition of harm to be more all encompassing, and we're also talking about net harm and benefit, not just harm as a whole. So if you take all that into account, then obviously reducing harm will be the best way to come up with moral standards. I mean, you are yourself acknowledging that there's other, harm is not just physical pain. So what's the problem?
I think that in 20 years' time, 10 years' time, Desmond is Amazing may well have some serious thoughts about the adults who allowed him to pretend to be a stripper for money and things like this. It just there are forms of harm that are not direct and physical.
Right.
And
So you just disproved what you just said. So given an all-encompassing definition of harm, that would be it. So what's the point? Because first he said like, oh, morality shouldn't just be based on harm, and then he said harm is not just physical. There's other things that could be attributed to harm. Well, like, okay, great. So if we come up with a better definition of harm, then that morality would be a good moral standard. Would be one that is trying to avoid the highest amount of harm based on based on a definition that is more flexible than just physical pain. Obviously. So you argued against the point that you just made 5 seconds ago.
I think that that's not really acknowledged by the sort of materialist Marxist left, who think that...
Wait, I don't know how the materialist Marxist left all of a sudden came into this. We were talking about the new atheist. So I don't know what the materialist Marxist left say about how they define harm. But the new atheists I don't know why we switched to them. But we were just talking about the new atheist movement, and if the new atheists, the people within the new atheists, they have done a very good job in defining harm means. I mean, if you read The Moral Landscape by Sam Harris, that it does go into a lot more detail than let's just come up with a moral standard that is just only physical harm. So you just switch to target the people. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, you just switched your target because you know that the people that you just said in the title here, the new atheists failed, because you said, oh my God, so this is a very reductionist definition of harm. They do not have that definition of harm. They have a much more nuanced definition of harm. So I don't know why we're all of a sudden saying the materialist Marxists. I don't know what, why are we switching to those people?
And Dark Matt said this himself, and I think that this is the trap that he's fallen into. That it's
okay. AJ is trolling. I'm going to put him on timeout. But if he keeps on trolling, I'm going to completely block him. Last username is saying communism is dog. Okay, guys, let's keep it on the topic. I mean, I know he said it. I'm just going to show your comment. But we were talking about the new atheists. I don't know how all of a sudden we jumped to communism.
It's just about oppression. And it's like, okay, well, oppression isn't something that's normally desirable, but ultimate freedom, I think, is also not desirable. And so
why is ultimate freedom an alternative to religion? Who said ultimate freedom? Like, do you think like once we're like, oh yeah, Christianity, Islam suck, that's not a good way to come up with standards? Like, oh, okay, great, let's have free, absolute, unlimited freedom for everybody, no rules, no standards, no laws. Like, why are we? What? How is that the alternative?
If the boundaries are not going to be placed from without, then they're going to have to be instilled from within.
Well, why not? Why shouldn't they come from without?
And that's quite difficult to do once you've ejected the sort of religious moral teachings, because these would be the things that you carry with yourself to tell yourself, no, actually, I won't do that thing because I think that's actually bad, or it will, might end up, by process of habit, becoming bad and making me the kind of person that I don't want to be.
What do you mean? People have been able to come up with understanding that these are bad without religion, no problem. I don't understand what you're talking about. In fact, what religion has done is quite the opposite. It has convinced people to do bad things thinking that they're good things more often. These things that religion considers to be bad, people didn't really have that big of an issue realizing that they're bad before and after religion. People leaving religion didn't have that much of an issue. The issue was mostly when good people decided that really horrible things are actually good things to do, and they wanted to be good people, so they did it. We got a super chat, €5. Yay! Thank you, JJ208. €5. Okay, thank you. That's very nice. I don't get that many super chats here, so that's nice. Okay, so what does the super chat say? Hey Armin, what is your opinion about optimistic nihilism? But what is your thoughts about the general meaning of life? Okay, so I'm not discussing that right now, but I don't want. It's sad. I don't want to ignore a super chat, but that's not really what I'm saying. Right, we're talking about right now. So maybe I'm gonna save this for the end. Here, I'm gonna save this. I'm gonna come back to this at the end. But okay, yeah, let's come back to this at the end. Let me see here. Last unit, I'm saying I was giving you an example of classical religion being replaced by more destructive modern dogma. Yeah, I agree. Communism is destructive dogma, but I'm saying that it doesn't have to. That is not the. Yes, again, I'm not going to not fight harmful, dangerous idea just because there's a chance that people stop. When people abandoning harmful ideas might jump into more harmful ideas. In general, on an average, there's the net benefit in attacking harmful ideas. I'm going to attack communism. I'm going to attack religion as well. Okay, just because if I attack one of them, I might convince somebody out of it, and they're going to jump from one harmful idea to another idea. That doesn't mean that it's not worth. I'm not saying that's what you're saying, last year's name. But again, as a whole, as an average, ideas that are not based on reality, it's a good idea to fight against them. Okay, you could come up with examples from what people jumping from one harmful idea to another, but on average, the net result is beneficial. Hold on. We got another super chat with no comments. Thank you, San Miguel. That's very nice. Thank you. Guys, everybody check San Miguel TV. Very, very good channel. It's about, the Black Israelites. He's an ex-Black Israelite. It's very interesting content. Go check it out. And please also like and subscribe. Thank you again. All right, here. Let's continue.
And I've never.
Oh, look at this comment. This is amazing. Oh, Armin, your bias is showing. My bias doesn't have to be shown. I'm pretty transparent about my bias. Oh, wow, you got me. My bias is showing. I wear my bias openly in front of everybody. I'm against religion. Is that like a new revelation to you? Yes, I am biased against horse shit. Okay, that's my bias. I'm biased against horse shit. We got another super chat. €10. Wow. Next, thank you, Marco. Marco is saying next chicken wings are on me. Wow, €10. That's very sweet. Thank you, guys. Wow, today you guys are being very generous today.
Never bought the utilitarian or Epicurean response to, well, aren't you just incentivizing people to be animalistic, slovenly, lazy, indulging in all their animal pleasures? No different to a pig would do. And
yes, what are you really suggesting that atheists out there are living lives just like a pig? They're being animalistic, like just like what world, like where is that happening? Most people are having better lives when they leave their religion.
Their answer is always, well, I mean, we enjoy the intellectual pleasures. We don't think that men would simply be fit to be pigs. I mean, a man wouldn't, lobotomize himself so he could be like a pig, would he? He'd feel like he's missing an essential component. It's like, okay, yeah, Mr. Mill, like 150 IQ, sure, you don't have that problem, but when you are opening the door and incentivizing this kind of, life of pleasure, this kind of, like literally like Pinocchio's Pleasure Island, you will end up with a bunch of braying donkeys, because a lot of the sort of 80 or 90 IQ people don't have your kind of self-awareness. They don't have.
Wait, people are living like that, like Pleasure Island, brain donkeys. What does he say? Like in Pinocchio, like are they living those lives in Scandinavian countries where atheism is rampant? Is that what's happening? Like, even you don't like the non-intellectual atheists, are they going out and they're just like not caring about anybody or anything and just living those kind of lives? Like, where is this happening? Like, does he have access to some data that I haven't seen? Because that's not what's happening. People, you don't have to be a philosopher to be an atheist and find meaning. You know, you don't have to be extremely intelligent to be able to find meanings in better, having better sources for your pleasure and happiness than religion, than God, and to find purpose. People are finding purpose without being intellectuals, without God, all the time. Like, where is this happening? People without religion have been able to understand that there needs to be certain standards to live in a healthy society without their God before Christianity. And even after Christianity, when countries, when they lost their religion and when people lost their religion, they didn't become like just full on like, oh yeah, short-term pleasure, no long-term goal, you know, no meaning. Like, that doesn't happen. This is like this is a scare tactic, you know, to use against atheism that doesn't have any, you know, there's no examples for that. I mean, there is anecdotes, but last username is saying we should fight all dogmatic ideologies, but my point is that we may need to be careful about how we do it, immunizing people against modern bullshit while purging them of their classical bullshit. Yeah, I agree with that. Of course, yeah. By the way, sometimes when I highlight your point and I say something, it's not necessarily against what you're saying. It's against, you know, I'm highlighting your point and I'm responding to you, and I'm also responding to a general other claim as well. Like, sometimes I need to be clear and saying, like, I know you didn't say that, so sorry if it seemed like I suggested that you said something and you didn't. Anyways, continue.
Of your cognitive abilities, and they will be satisfied with a life of hedonistic pleasure. They will be satisfied with just,
like, for example, like if you go to like Scandinavian countries where most people don't believe in God, do the non-intellectuals, non-philosophers, they're like, yeah, I don't have religion, so I don't really like, do most of them feel like, okay, like, let's just sex and food, and I don't know, there's no much point to life other than just short-term pleasures. What's the point of living? I don't have anything, big goals. I don't have meaning in my life. Is that what is happening? How are they managing to have such high level of satisfaction? How are they beating every other country in satisfaction levels if that's what's happening without religion?
consuming and just, you know, indulging themselves constantly. But what kind of person is that going to produce? It's not going to produce a person who's particularly competent, constructive, happy, healthy. You know, they're not going to be builders. They're not going to be people who are making things.
They're not? Are you serious? They're not building things? Like, there's like, you really think people without religions are not building things? Come on, guys. Like, come on. Okay, here's another thing. I don't know. Okay, Kuglor for saying, hi, Armin. Do you think Sargon's audience influences his position? Atheism isn't trendy in right-leaning circles. It would benefit him to speak out against it. I don't see that much point into trying to guess people's intentions. I think it's better to just take their ideas and take their claims and decide whether you agree with it or not, but based on its own merits. I mean, I guess it's fun to guess. It's just not very productive. I'm not against having fun sometimes, even if it's not productive. So yeah, I'm not going to be too critical of people who do that, because, you know, drama is fun and people want to do that. I guess it's fine. But I just think, like, yeah, so I'm not going to be like too judgmental of people having fun with those kind of things. I'm just saying, like, right now I'm not doing that. Yes, but most are tempered by socialist work ethic, but that is eroding with time. Yeah, that's not my point. I'm not trying to pass. I'm not saying the Scandinavian countries are good because of atheism, or if they're going to continue being good. I'm just saying this just shows, you know, I'm not saying that atheism is responsible for them being really good. I'm just saying that it's possible for people, and it's likely, not just possible, it's likely for people to find happiness, to have meaningful life, to find goals beyond just short-term pleasure without religion. Like, it's not, people are not jumping off rooftops because of atheism. Okay. Haven't you said before that being an atheist isn't at all that special? I'm sure there is plenty of hedonistic ones, but Carl is clearly strawmanning, and he's an atheist, right? What keeps him from being hedonistic? Yeah, oh my God. Guys, I'm not saying that you're not going to be hedonistic if you're an atheist. There's examples for everything. Okay. Atheism. Okay, these are a lot of questions, okay? I'm just going to address one of them, okay? Yes, there are examples of people becoming, I don't know exactly what hedonistic means different things to different people, but I think in this context, it means that people that are focusing on short-term pleasure than long-term pleasures. Yes, there are some people that are going to act like that because of their atheism, but there are people that act like that with religion as well. The net result of people believing in more true things and less bullshit is on average a good thing. That's not a very extraordinary claim. That seems pretty obvious to me. Anyways, let's continue a little bit.
It's going to be leeches who just consume constantly in the current sort of consumer environment that we have. That's not good. That's not good. That's not wholesome. That doesn't produce good condition. You don't look at these couch potatoes and think that's the apex of humanity. That's how people should be. It should be this way. You couldn't do.
Okay, I'm really trying not to strawman Sargon, but he seems to be suggesting that atheism, if you do not have religion, if you're not a philosopher, the outcome is couch potatoes that don't produce anything. Like, is that what his claim is? Because that seems ridiculous right now, and I don't think I'm strawmanning him.
Derive a duty to become that thing, because that thing is obviously something that's undesirable. So what I'm saying is there are no incentives towards virtue, and this is why I keep recommending a YouTube channel called The Fourth Age.
Again, guys, think about this, okay? The things that he's worried about, the moral, the breaking of a part of moral structure and ideas, and he's worried about elevator gate and couch potatoes, and he thinks that Christianity provides a moral guideline that avoids all of that. I mean, we're talking about a religion that is responsible for witch burning, the Salem witch trials, the Inquisition, slavery, child molestation. I mean,
he comments about me in a video the other day, which I'll talk about in a second. But The Fourth Age is a comic book channel. He's involved in Comicsgate. However, it doesn't. That's just the framing of what he wants to talk about. And what he does is really excellent promotion of Aristotle. Like, why is Aristotle's framework and view of a virtuous life a good thing? I'll leave links to all of these guys in the description. I'll try and link them in.
Aren't you just disproving your own point, Aristotle? So you're describing people. First of all, I'm not necessarily convinced that Aristotle had a lot of crap ideas as well. But again, it doesn't matter that his conclusions were crap. His methodology was better than Christianity because he was emphasizing on logic and coming up with ways on conclusions that was based on rational thinking. Even if he got a lot of conclusions wrong, I would rather go with Aristotle than religion because the methodology matters more than the conclusions. But if that is what you are, I mean, he just disproved everything he said. Like, he's saying Aristotle as a good role model for how things should be done. So you just provided an example of somebody that didn't use faith or revelation or God for their methodology, and a person that predates the Bible by hundreds of years. So isn't that an example for why everything you just said previous to this is wrong?
In using the new feature that YouTube has to to tag creators, because I think these people are all doing good work contributing to the public dialogue. Dark Matter does amazing parables, frankly.
Brady is saying, what do you think of Sarko's hard turn on ethno-nationalism? Okay, I don't think, I mean, I disagree with him a lot, but I don't think he supports ethno-nationalism. In fact, I've seen him debate the exact opposite position. And again, this is not the topic of this discussion.
Adam Friended is asking, I think, the right questions, and the Fourth Age, I think, is answering them. And so, anyway, he said that I'd advise people when asked what to do about social justice culture, don't be a hero. And he took me to saying, well, what I think you mean is don't be a martyr. Because what I'd recommended is an Aristotelian solution, which is do things incrementally and by habit, day by day by day. Become the thing that
Guys, am I getting this wrong? Isn't him is him liking Aristotelian model? Like, doesn't that kind of disprove all his claim about the necessity of Christianity for a moral structure? Like, he's now championing like this idea, like people that use a model that had nothing to do with revelation, and was based on logically analyzing information. Okay, guys, Vikram, I see this, but I don't. That's not the topic. I shouldn't even touch this right now. Okay, we could do another video on this. Vikram, send me that video. I'll review it on a separate video. Okay.
You want to see in existence, and then you will have done your part in this big culture war. You will have made the world a better place, and you won't have been a martyr, which is the word I should have used rather than don't be a hero. I was using a colloquial phrase, but he's right. I meant don't be a martyr. Don't come out and fucking get yourself shot, because that doesn't help anyone.
Okay, so you don't like being a martyr. So you shouldn't like Christianity. If you don't like being a martyr, then I mean, that Christianity promotes martyrdom.
We don't need martyrs. We need heroes. And the hero is created through Aristotle's framework. And that's what the Fourth Age talks about. The very heart. I tell you what, right? Again, I'll work on this. I'll do a lot of work on this when we've got the website up, so we can produce like member podcasts and stuff talking about this in more detail. So we spent dedicate like an hour going over loads of stuff. But basically, at the heart of Aristotle's, and I think this is a very fair analysis, is a holistic view of the individual. The individual is not some isolated individual atomized individual who has no duties to others and has no responsibilities of his own, and is just focused on one aspect of humanity. Because if there's one thing that I think you can say about the Enlightenment project, is that it's autistic in regards to how a human should live, and the focus on the aspect of the human that is reason is, I think, disproportionately weighted compared to the other aspects of a human that are not based in reason. And I think Aristotle has a much more rounded view of what a person is. I mean, he obviously includes reason. I mean, the contemplative life is Aristotle's ideal life, but the contemplative life is not just a person thinking all day. You are still a person in the world. You're still a political animal. You still have family and friends, and these are all needed. You need to achieve eudaimonia, to have a complete and happy life. You need to have all of the functions of life, not just a focus on reason.
Okay, so whether you like the Aristotelian model or if you like the new Enlightenment, the age model with the philosopher of the Age of Enlightenment, I mean, I think Aristotle was full of crap, but and I like the philosophers from many years later from the Age of Enlightenment better, and their ideas, which was one of the heavy parts, one of the main emphasis on in that was focusing on scientific method as well and championing the scientific model. So it wasn't just based on people just sitting and thinking. Anyways, but it doesn't really matter, because what matters is that whether they thought that people should focus on reason or not focus on reason, or whether they had come to right conclusions or wrong conclusions, or whether you like that, Aristotelian model more or the other models more, what they have in common is that their tool that they themselves used to come up with the conclusions was based on reason. Okay, and as soon as you start championing these models, you are acknowledging that there are other ways, superior ways, than relying on fiction and faith and revelation to come up with models. So these people actually prove to you that there are superior methods. And again, like you might say, like, well, people cannot all be philosophers, but they don't have to be, because if you could see, like after Rousseau and Voltaire, these people, they changed the society without everybody reading their work. Like people like Voltaire became a champion. We became famous and well known, and people loved him, and they loved his influence, and they loved the things that he were saying. And they weren't like the bakers loved him. The the average people were loved the ideas that he was championing, and their way of life changed without them being philosophers. Their values changed. They could understand that this is a better way to live, and the fact that these models, these better methods, managed to change people's way of life, even without them being philosophers, even them without actually reading like Walter's books and his work and his papers, shows that this fear that Sargon has here is unfounded, because he's saying, like, well, without religion, the philosophers might have better ways to live or better structures, but the average people need religion. But that hasn't been the case. Better models that were introduced by better thinkers and people that wrote the Bible have managed to, the models were designed with the understanding that it has to work for the average people, not just for the enlightened thinkers.
I think that is,
and it did work. It did work. The ideas that came out of the Enlightenment movement brought more people out of misery than any other ideas throughout history, right? The scientific model, the due process, coming up with models for government that requires accountability and limits power, liberty, freedom of trade, freedom of speech. These ideas have influenced almost. There's not a single person on the planet that their lives have not been influenced and been that they're not living better lives because of these ideas. Christianity cannot even claim anything resembling that. Christianity not only has never been able to produce better societies, it has held progress back. The world is a much worse place because of the hundreds of years that Christianity stood between humanity and progress. It's the polar opposite of the ideas that made the world a better place.
Much healthier and much more useful to your average person. And it fundamentally comes down then to the phrase "all lives matter." Again, we arrive at a formulation that's basically the same. It's not, though, all lives matter. Aristotle is each life matters. More importantly, your life matters, and how you live it matters.
Okay, come on, guys. No, people. I know there are some really crazy, wokey people, fringe, far lefty guys that might say, white lives don't matter. But come on, the 99.9% of people who say Black lives matter, 99.999% of the people who say Black lives matter do not claim that all lives don't matter. I mean, what is this? What are you responding to?
And so Aristotle would be asking questions like, how is happiness achieved? And to Mill, he might say something like, to the utilitarians, the Epicureans, he might say, can happiness be achieved at the bottom of a bottle, or in one more ejaculation, or one more hit of drugs? And the answer is probably no. It probably can't.
Is that okay? But is that what atheist is? That the alternative? First of all, this is not even, he's not even talking. Okay, wait a minute. He just disproved himself. So Aristotle, without religion, without Christianity, without God, without revelation, without faith, realized that the secret to happiness to life is not at the at the end of, what did he say? Like bottom of a bottle or at the end of an ejaculation. Great. So great. Thank you for proving my point, Sargon. With that, with logical thinking about, we could figure out best ways to live without religion. Thank you for proving my point.
And the reason that I think that a focus on Aristotle is so important, especially right now, is because Aristotle's.
I mean, how is that even relevant to this video? Okay, so you're saying the Aristotelian model is great in a video that it's titled "Why the New Atheist Failed." I mean, I can see when you were trying to say why Christianity works. I mean, this actually kind of disproves everything you were saying. The second half of the video is disproving the first half of the video.
Ethics dominated medieval Christian philosophy. I mean, it was Aquinas just called him.
Okay, so that's what his point is. Okay. So his point is that the Greek philosophers influenced Christianity. Okay, I agree with that. I agree with the fact that anything that didn't come from the Bible that made Christians focus less on Christianity and focus on other superior thinkers than the people who wrote the Bible was a sign of progress. So what does that say about Christianity? And also with Islam, because a lot of Muslims and a lot of Muslim philosophers were influenced by Greek philosophers. Right? They were very much influenced by Greek philosophers, and that made their way of thinking improved. But what does that say about Islam? And what does that say about Christianity? That it's a sign of improvement that you focus less on the Quran and the Bible, and then you get more, the more you're influenced by sources outside of Christianity and outside of Islam, you come up with better ideas. So the more you get farther away with Islamic and Christian sources, the more advanced your thinking becomes. That doesn't make that's not an endorsement of Christianity, Carl.
Philosopher, because in many ways he is the philosopher. And throwing out the Christ seems to be the throwing out of the Aristotle too.
Why? How? Throwing out the Christ is like throwing out the Aristotle? No. You don't have to. You could keep your Aristotle. I don't suggest it, but you could keep your Aristotle and throw away the Christ.
And I think that leaves us deeply impoverished. And this is why I've promoted our...
Wait, so his argument is that throwing out the Christ would mean throwing out the Aristotle? And that's why we shouldn't throw out the Christ? I'm pretty sure you're capable of throwing out the Christ without throwing out Aristotle. I mean, I'm pretty sure Sargon is not going to say, like, we shouldn't throw away out Islam, because I could tell you, Sargon, that Islam has been very much influenced by Greek philosophers. So are you going to make the same argument about Islam? Should we not throw away the Quran because throwing out Islam is going to be throwing out Aristotle? Is that going to be, are you going to say that? Are you going to say that, or are you going to have a different standard?
His channel so much. Aristotle's views of virtue and vice are the method by which we establish what heroism is. And the hero being the sort of apex and paragon of virtue is, again, without thinking, inherited from Christianity and baked into our culture. It's how we define them. And we do need our heroes and not our martyrs. And so I don't blame people for going back to Christianity in order to kind of rediscover and reconnect with that traditional Western view of heroism. But I think
Christianity is not Western. It came from the Middle East. Okay? Christianity. I'm in the Philippines, man. This is like more Christian here than where you are. I don't understand why this is a Western thing. Okay, Western Western countries are more advanced, not because of Christianity. If you want to go back to what made you great, go back to your go rediscover your Enlightenment values, right? I mean, not just because something happened in the West and Western countries are better, that doesn't make those values better. You know what else is a Western value? You know, guys, guess what I'm gonna say? Communism is a Western value. It came from Germany. Marx was German. Can I say this? YouTube is gonna strike. YouTube is not gonna let my channel grow if I say this. The N word for the bad people, the horrible people that came out like during World War II. Those guys, okay, those their ideas came out of Western countries. Okay, Western values includes them as well. Okay. So if you think, oh, Western countries are better, so Christianity was in Western countries, that therefore Christianity awesome. Are you gonna say the same thing about those values? Isn't it stupid that I can't say that without YouTube punishing our channel?
I think that a lot of atheists won't be able to do that. I mean, I'm an atheist. I won't be able to do that. I will never. I just don't believe. I just don't believe in some god who's watching over the universe, etc. It just seems silly to me. However, a positive alternative does need to be found, because I do not want...
And a positive alternative has been found, and it came... Your country is one of the two main countries that is responsible for the alternative. France and United Kingdom are the parents of the popularization of the Enlightenment values, and you are there right now. And don't you want to be grateful for, aren't you one of the people that want to be grateful for the things that your country contributed? Isn't that why? Carl, given that you're a person that wants to be proud of United Kingdom and the things that your country, I mean, I don't encourage that. I don't encourage being proud of things that you didn't do. Okay. But given that you want to be proud, why are you giving a credit from an idea that came out of the Middle East? You could celebrate the things that actually made the world a better place that came out of your country. It came out of your country.
I want to find myself sucked into this enervating left-wing sludge of ideology, where everyone is patrolling everyone else all the time and cancelling and just full of envy and hate and fear. I think it produces things that are deeply unwholesome. And
envy and fear and canceling each other and all of that stuff because of lack of Christianity. Canceling each other? What? Like the Inquisition was not people canceling each other? The witch burnings were not people canceling each other? I think that's a more aggressive version of those are the cancellation party of the Inquisition, and the Salem witch trials were a tiny bit more aggressive than the woke cults that we have today. No, okay. I don't know. I can't do that, man. I want to be able to swear, but YouTube doesn't let me. The only God I fear is the YouTube gods. Hold on, let's continue.
The riots and the lootings, the burnings, and the murders have shown us anything.
Riots and looting and the burning. Yeah, those are bad. Okay, those are bad. But I'm pretty sure the riots and the looting and the burning that Christianity has offered to history has been astronomically higher. And again, I don't know what this has to do anything with how the new atheists failed, because I could tell you that a lot of these new atheists are not these far leftist Marxist groups that you're now are criticizing. In fact, most of them are against that. So again, and the alternative to Christianity is not more looting and rioting and burning. In fact, Christianity is a major source of all of that.
So that we will come to a point where we will be begging for a Christian theocracy if we carry on like this.
Voila! Are you serious? We can't. You really think? Okay, I say this as somebody that is very, very, very much anti the regressive left and the woke and the far left. I don't know what you're gonna call them. You know who I'm talking about. I have more content against them than a lot of other atheist channels. But are you serious? Between them and a Christian theocracy, you would pick a Christian theocracy? Like, Carl, you told me in person that you like history. How could you even say that? They're not even remotely close. Okay, they're not even close. Have you not seen what the Christians have done when they're in power? It's not even remotely close. How many people have been killed during the riots? This is how many people have been killed during the riots because of the woke? I'm not endorsing it. It's like, obviously it's horrible and not enough people are calling it out. But are you seriously going to compare that to the crimes that have been committed in the name of Christianity throughout history? Does it even come close? Twitch live chat saying, I take SJW land over theocracy every day of the week. Yeah.
But I don't think these are the only options. I think that Aristotle provides the individual with a secular set of virtue ethics that is not at all reliant on, nor is it incompatible with religion.
Great. So we don't need religion. So the new atheists were right. So what's the point? What is, like you just said? He just disproved the first half of the video in one sentence. So it's not incompatible, but it's not doesn't require religion, and it's a secular ideology. Like, I don't agree with that, but you are at least believing in one set of values that doesn't require religion, that provides you a great framework. So what the hell do you need religion? Religion comes with a lot of dangerous baggage.
And this, I think, is what the new atheists failed to bring along with them when they were pushing back against the unjustified tyranny of religious theocracy.
Okay. So you're saying the new atheists failed because when they took away religion, they didn't come up with the Aristotelian model? First of all, they didn't have to, because they were. Second of all, they did. Not Aristotelian, but if you actually read the new atheist writings, they do provide a shit ton of alternative there. I swear, I don't care, YouTube. They come up with a lot of models themselves. Like, I mean, have you read Dawkins? Have you read Sam Harris? Have you read Christopher Hitchens? Have you read Daniel Dennett? They provide a lot of alternatives, even though they didn't have to, because the new atheist movement was about attacking against religion. But they did provide much better alternatives to an Aristotelian model, better than religion for sure. I mean, it's not hard to be better than religion, but even better than an Aristotelian model or whatever Greek philosophers came up with. And so they did. What is the failure here?
And I think the atheist community really needs to think about this. And I think that they are not very familiar with Aristotle. And
is that what's missing? That okay? So the problem with the atheist movement is that they're not familiar with Aristotle. I mean, doesn't that, because wasn't he just saying recently, like in this video a couple of minutes ago, that we need Christianity? Wasn't that the entire point? Like, wasn't he arguing for why we need Christianity? But now he's saying the problem with the new atheist movement was that they didn't provide Aristotle. Why Aristotle? That's not even the best example for a model.
I think the sort of literal interpretation of biblical scripture, rather than talking about the philosophical interpretation of it that many medieval Catholics had done, is actually not to their credit. And I think it's something that needs to be thought about, as in why as an atheist should you do anything? And it appears at the moment that there aren't any really good answers.
There are not any good answers, period. The question again is not what we should be doing. The question is what What is the best way of it? What is the best thing that we can do if the goal is for us to be less miserable? That's the question. If your question is should, there is no should, there is no ought to, there is no duty or any of that. Those are useless questions to ask because there is no answers to those questions. The question needs to be, the good question to ask would be, what is the best way of achieving highest amount of happiness for the highest number of people? Hold on, I'm missing a lot of live chats. Last username saying the bottom line is that classical religion is not coming back, so we can't use it to fight modern dogma. Even if we wanted to, we have to fight bad ideas with better ideas, not old ideas. Yes, thank you. Wow, that was very good. That's very well written. And just saying, my guess is that he means they failed in that they didn't reach a wide enough audience to push back on the SJW wave he is concerned with. Well, first of all, that was not the goal of the new atheist movement. The goal was to fight back against religion. And if that was the goal, they done significantly well. In fact, they produced better results based on that metric than anybody could have anticipated. That was the goal. So if somebody wants to change the metric, guess what? The new atheist movement was also not very effective in fighting against, people's access to water in the Middle East. It didn't achieve that much, right? It also didn't reduce AIDS in Africa. That's the new atheist movement wasn't very helpful in reducing AIDS in Africa. So, yeah, sucks.
Anyway, this is just my rambling thoughts on the subject. Maybe I should have. I'll be able to write articles about this sort of stuff when we've got the website, and I will.
Oh yeah. To be fair, it's okay to openly think about these things and have it put it out there. I mean, I don't want to people. I sometimes come up here with half-baked views, and you guys come and attack me, and I come back with better ideas after. So I don't want to be I don't want to encourage anybody personally. It's fine.
Be able to
it's okay to be wrong. And Carl is so wrong here, and I am very correct, and I have better ideas about this than Carl could ever have, and that's okay. It's okay to be wrong.
Long form podcasts, because we'll have all of the setup to do it about this. Because I think this will be really good stuff, because I think the wholesome is necessary. This is how are we going to build something that's worth keeping, right? That's the question that underlies it all. And I don't see the left doing that. They are deconstructionists. They are just interested in destroying things, destroying what the heroes are, destroying what the institutions are for, destroying the narrative that we have about ourselves as good people. And I can't stand it. And the best way to create a narrative about
the best way is to go with the narrative that the Enlightenment thinkers have. We need to turn the Enlightenment thinkers into household names and build narratives around their lives and their stories. Okay, that's what we need to do, and we need to come up. People need to know that who they need to be thankful for if they're not dying in childbirth. People need to know that why they're not dying from disease when they're drinking clean water. People need to know who they need to be thanking. I don't know these names, okay? But we need to know these names. These are the heroes that we need. We need to know who we need to be thanking for our vaccine, for who we need to be thanking that we have a government that has 3 branches, that each one of these branches is holding the other one accountable, because one Enlightenment thinker decided that, we need to cut the government into different parts so they could hold each other accountable, and we don't have too much power focused in one place. Who do we need to thank for that? These are the heroes that we need. These are the narratives that we need. And these are the stories that we need to tell. And that's the alternative to the religion that we need to fight for.
Being a good person is to be able to simply point to your own observable virtues and say, well, I do this, I do the other, and I do the other. And the only way that you can do that is by being virtuous. A virtuous person never has to virtue signal. There's no point in it. But anyway, I'll leave it there. If you'd like to support our channel, you can check out our merch store. We're on Redbubble now, and man, it's really great because you've got a bunch of different products that we can put these things on, and so we can get like Orwell
I don't know why he's using Redbubble. He should decide Amazon merch.
posters. The Orwell T-shirt with Orwell's
Redbubble is good too, though.
face made up in attractive colors, with the message, his quote.
Yeah.
If liberty is to mean anything at all, it must mean the right to tell people that which they don't want.
But that reminds me, we have merch also in the description. Buy Atheist Republic T-shirts. Link in the description. I'm gonna try to use this quote as one of our designs as well. But yeah. Anyways, I'm gonna end this here. This was the channel that if you guys want to go find the video. It's called Aka Daily. Let me see what somebody was saying something about me that I want to highlight. Okay. Hold on. Let me read some of your comments and then end this. So Alt Centrist is saying you're kind of proving Sargon's point, since he has said that he thinks utilitarianism has lots of issues, and your ideas seem to be utilitarianism. And I think it's true that where's the rest? It's true that utilitarianism can go down unhealthy routes in the same way that addiction, well, pleasure isn't good. Where? Okay, I don't know what you're saying, because how did I prove his point? I didn't say. That's just that's just your views on utilitarianism, but you're not providing any arguments for why you think you're right. Anyways, I'm gonna move. Marco is saying, "I'm in bed." Why are you telling me this, Marco? Jesus. Oh, no way. I'm in bed with a woman. We don't want to allow the R word. So this is it. Yes, out. Yes. What the hell, Marco? What the hell are you doing? Don't tag me in comments that is like that. But it's okay. Vikram is saying this was a fun video. I'm enjoying your rebuttal of Sargon. I have a midterm in 40 minutes. I will have to leave soon. Go. Why are you here? Go. But thank you. Anyways, guys, if you want to support here's one thing I say to people who are considering supporting the channel: do not support the channel. Do not support this channel financially if you're struggling financially. Okay, do not think like, oh yeah, times are tough, and I don't have enough money, but $1 a month is okay. No, it's not okay. Okay, don't do that. If you do not have enough, if you're struggling financially, do not even give us $1 a month. Do not give us $1 a month. We don't want your money. If you're struggling, you can support us by liking, sharing, subscribing, all of that. It takes a few seconds and it's free. Okay. Only support us financially if you're not even going to notice the money that you gave to us. Like if you're so comfortable with letting go $1 a month, and you're not even going to notice it that it's gone, then only in that situation, link in the description, become a patron, and we are very grateful for you if you do so. Justin is saying, indeed, new atheists don't intend to replace religion, and this has already been done with many philosophers, especially Stoic philosophers. Yep. I already mentioned this. Sina, Marcus Aurelius, and yes, I don't know how to pronounce these names. Yes, I'm not going to read it. I'm not going to try embarrass myself. Who's this? Alt Centrist is saying Sargon said that we cannot just have a world where we just maximize pleasure, because we could just be animals doing useful things. But if you describe pleasure as not just short-term pleasure, if you describe pleasure as also because pleasure, when you say pleasure, a lot of people think about sex, food, drinking. That's what people think about. But pleasure also includes feeling useful, enjoying, being responsible for other people's happiness, having a long-term purpose in your life, enjoying the company of loved ones. Pleasure includes also all of those things. So when you decide, in that sense, a utilitarian worldview doesn't seem as meaningless and as you think it does. So pleasure is not Yeah. So just like you have to rethink the way we talk about pleasure. Marco is saying, no, I disagree. If you live a comfortable life, you could consider spending a few bucks for this channel instead of coffee. I don't know. Okay, yeah, Marco. I'm just talking about people that are struggling financially. Please, if you're struggling financially, don't support us. Anyways, I think I'm gonna end it there. It's already 2 hours long. Sorry I went longer than I should have, but yeah, it was fun. Thank you for staying with me here. And again, if you're not subscribed, why? Why are you not subscribed? You watched 2 hours. You were spent 2 hours with me. You obviously like the content. So why are you not subscribed? And if you're subscribed and you haven't hit the bell button, why? Why? Like if I go live, if you being subscribed, you're not going to notice when I'm going live. Only if you hit the bell button, you're going to notice when I go live. The subscription doesn't help you be here when I'm live. Okay. So also hit the bell button. Also follow us on Twitch. Also like the button, like the button. Hit the like button because that really helps our channel grow. It does. So please, if you think this channel deserves more following than it has, please hit the like button and share it. Tell people to follow, comment, subscribe. Okay, I'm gonna go and subscribe to our newsletter. Bye. Sorry.